Hi everybody, my name is Scott Jensen. When I was 16 years old, I was in a terrible car accident and broke my pelvis in 5 places. I went code blue in the ambulance, which means that my heart had stopped, but I was lucky they were able to restart my heart with the defibrillators. Now at that time, this was a very cutting-edge, revolutionary technology, so I was very, very fortunate that it worked in my case because it was sort of a lucky thing at that time. And I woke up 3 days later in the hospital, and my family was gathered around me, the minister from my church was gathered around me, and I had survived. It was amazing, but I had a broken pelvis, and this was a very difficult injury, as you might imagine. And when I got out of the hospital, I was incredibly far from when I went into there. I could barely touch my knees with my legs straight, and I could barely separate my feet. I had almost no flexibility. I had tons of scar tissue everywhere around my pelvis, and my lower back had suffered damage in the crash as well. So I was already diagnosed with lower spinal damage in my early 20s. And then I had another misfortune when I was about 24 to be in a car accident on the San Francisco Bay Bridge, where the car was completely totaled and my spine suffered a whiplash from the top to the bottom. Every single vertebrae was sprained or displaced. I had soft tissue damage up and down the entire length of my spine. And this was a very difficult injury. Now, I had spent the years after the first injury stretching my hips and regaining my flexibility very slowly, very arduously, and I had returned to practicing Kung Fu and Tai Chi. But the second accident, I really couldn't do anything. I couldn't possibly think about doing Kung Fu. I couldn't really even do Tai Chi at that point. I was in so much pain every day. I would wake up in the morning in pain, and it's pinched nerve pain pretty much throughout my spine and lower back, and it was really severe. It's very, very difficult to stand or walk at times. And for a long time, it was also actually very, very difficult for me to sit. I really couldn't sit for very long. I'd have to get up and walk, or I'd have to lay down. So this was the situation that I found myself in, and I found that chiropractic treatments and acupuncture and massage were very helpful, but you simply can't go to get treatments every single day. And as a young person, how many treatments could I really afford? Now, I absolutely needed those treatments. I absolutely needed the chiropractic work. There's no doubt about it, and I did get a lot of it. But what I discovered was that if I really practiced my Qigong every single day, if I got up early in the morning and I was in immense pain, if I slowly and carefully loosened up my body using exceptionally gentle exercises, and then I did my standing Qigong, I was able to realign my spine, to balance the position of my pelvis, and to relieve the pinched nerve pain that I was suffering throughout my body. And then I could have a normal day. And in fact, once I'd done all that and really aligned my entire spine and body and opened up the blood circulation, opened up the Qi circulation, and relieved the pinched nerve pain, I actually felt fantastic. So knowing that this was a choice, I could have pain all day long and really be miserable, or I could spend an hour or 2 or sometimes 3, but however long it took, if I just kept doing all of those simple exercises long enough, I could sort myself out and have a great day. And that's when I really learned about Qigong, and then I was able to resume my Tai Chi, and my Tai Chi really expanded my ability to heal and strengthen myself. And then after that, I was able to resume my Kung Fu and to really achieve some excellence in my Kung Fu practice, which was my real goal. And so for me, learning Qigong and Tai Chi has been an incredibly healing process, and that's what I love sharing with people. If I can teach people how to exercise and to do Qigong, to do Tai Chi, learn how to harmonize their blood and Qi, how to align their body, how to relieve their pain, it's a wonderful thing. It's so satisfying for me to see people being healthier and happier and out of pain and able to enjoy your day. And you know, the truth is, if you're in a lot of pain, honestly, it's a real challenge to have a good day. It's just, most people have a very difficult time having a positive, upbeat attitude when they're in a lot of pain. And if you're not in pain, it's just incredibly easier to have a good day. So one of the things I'd like to talk to you about today and share with you is the real importance of having really good pelvic position and pelvic alignment. Now for me, I had fantastic biofeedback mechanism because whenever my body was out of alignment, I was in a lot of pain. And if I was able to get my body to be well aligned, then the pain would go away. So every day I had training and I had assistance of biofeedback of pain to let me know whether or not I was achieving a very good position and alignment. So that was really my process. And today I want to really just talk about this pelvic alignment, how to align your pelvis during Qigong practice, and then hopefully this will help you to level up your Qigong practice as well. I think it's sort of a critical element in any type of standing Qigong practice whatsoever. This isn't as relevant to sitting or laying down Qigong or even to walking Qigong, but any Qigong I think that you do where you're on your feet, having good pelvic alignment and having a very nice alignment of your spine is a wonderful thing, and it will help you to improve whatever Qigong methods you're already practicing. First, I'd like to talk about why isn't our pelvic perfectly aligned to begin with? Why do we even need to pay attention to this? Then we're going to talk about the benefits of aligning your pelvis correctly, or what it gives you. And then I'm going to go into two methods to really help you to do this, sort of tricks to get the alignment going. And then we'll look at some of the additional benefits of having well-aligned pelvis. So the first thing is like, well, why do we need to worry about having our pelvis? Why isn't our pelvis well-aligned at all times? And for most people, the answer is it's our modern lifestyle, that we're sitting far, far, far too much. And that then when we do activities, most of our activities are one-sided, or they're sort of repetitive, and we don't have a very wide range of movements that most people do during the day, that their body is being comprehensively moved in sort of a bilaterally balanced fashion. We don't do that. We do lots of stuff with our good hand. For most people, it's the right hand. So you're very right hand dominant, very right side dominant. Other people, the left side. But the most important thing, at least in terms of the spine, the pelvis, is that we're simply sitting too much. And when we sit too long, what happens is the psoas muscles tighten up. Now the psoas muscle is spelled P-S-O-A-S, and the psoas muscle goes from the front of your thigh bone over the front of your pelvic girdle and then attaches to the base of your spine. And depending on how well developed your psoas muscle is, it could attach to the lower 3 or 4 vertebrae of your spine. The psoas muscle is the largest muscle in the human body after the uterus. So the uterus is actually the largest muscle, but in terms of a single muscle other than the uterus, the psoas muscle is the largest muscle. The larger muscles in the legs, that's a quadricep. That's actually 4 muscles. Your arm muscle, it's bicep, that's 2. The tricep is 3. So all the other muscles, each of them is individually not as large as the psoas. So this is the largest muscle in your body. If you were a cow, this would be the filet mignon. So we could assume that it's a tasty muscle as well, but we don't really know. In cows, it's a little different because the spine is horizontal than humans, but that is what the psoas muscle is, the filet mignon cut in beef. So what does the psoas muscle do? Well, the psoas muscle is critically important in terms of connecting our entire body. It's connecting our legs to our spine, and we use our psoas muscles when we walk. We use our psoas muscles when we lift our legs. We use our psoas muscles when we deepen our hips from side to side. So the psoas muscle is pretty much we use our psoas muscle for sex as well. So it's a pretty popular muscle. And when we're using the psoas muscle, this is a really fundamental part of our body. You can't see the psoas muscle from the outside. It's pretty deep. And what happens is when you're sitting, and the psoas muscle gets really tight, it pulls your lower vertebrae out of alignment. Usually what happens is for most people, the psoas muscle is stronger than the muscles on the back, which counterbalance it. So on the front of the spine, you have the psoas muscle. On the back of the spine, you have another series of muscles. almost everybody, those muscles in the back are not as strong as the psoas muscle. So when the psoas muscle gets tight, it pulls the lower vertebrae of the spine, those lower 3 or 4 vertebrae, it pulls them forward. And if one psoas muscle is stronger than the other psoas muscle, then you get a twist going on. And for many of us, especially anybody who drives a car, almost everybody's driving automatic cars right now. Nobody has a clutch. When we had manual transmissions, you had to push the clutch with your left foot. So your left leg was extending from the hip, your left leg was getting exercise. Right now, people drive your car, you're using your right leg almost all the time. So I think a lot of people also have a spin in terms of which psoas muscle is stronger than the other one. So we have a spin going on now, and the psoas muscle is passing over our pelvic girdle, attaching the lower 3 or 4 vertebrae, and as soon as it starts to pull those vertebrae out of alignment, your pelvis starts to tilt. As soon as those vertebrae start to get pulled out of alignment, you're in danger of having pinched nerve pain in your lower back. And a lot of people suffer from sciatic pain. And sciatic pain is a pain that runs down your legs, and it can be felt in your leg, even all the way down to your calf and maybe even to your foot. It can be very, very severe, debilitating pain. Sciatic pain is no joke. So sciatic pain, the sciatic nerve, when it exits your spine at the base, at the lower vertebrae, it's the size of your own little finger. It's a huge, fat nerve. And it only needs to be pinched by those lumbar vertebrae just a little bit, and it really, really, really starts to complain. So the good news is that if you can rebalance this system of the pelvis and the lumbar vertebrae and the psoas muscle, you can relieve that pinched nerve pain on the base of your spine, pinching your sciatic nerve. And that's a wonderful thing to do. And if you learn how to do it and you're able to relax a little bit, it's relatively easy to get rid of sciatic pain. You may not need to have a surgery or any other dramatic interventions if you can learn how to work with balancing the muscles, relaxing the muscles, realigning your pelvis and realigning your lower back. So being able to relieve sciatic pain and all sorts of lower back pain, pinched nerve pain in the lower back is an incredibly wonderful thing. And this idea of, the psoas muscle becoming tight because we're sitting too much, that's really a key factor. So let's take a look at modern posture, what I call modern Western posture, as a result of sitting in chairs a whole bunch. So what happens when your psoas muscle pulls your lower vertebrae forward is that we end up actually tilted like this. It's actually pulling our spine forward. But people notice when they're tilting forward. So what they actually do is lift their chest up. And this gives you a lot of curvature in your lower back. And now that we've sort of tilted ourselves up, we're no longer really looking at the computer. So now we do this with our head. So we have accentuated curves at the top of the neck, at the shoulders, in the middle of the back, and our tailbone is pointing backwards and sort of up. We have a lot of tension in the lower back. So this is the modern American posture, modern Western posture. And what we'd like to do is be able to level our hips like this, getting my pelvis level again, smoothing my lower back, having my tailbone pointing straight down to the ground, pluck up your spine, lift up your head, and then level your chin. In this way, you basically tractioning open your entire spine, balancing the head, the heart, and the hips, the pelvis, and getting the spine in a really nice place for Qigong. If you are suffering from pinched nerve pain in the spine, if you're successful in doing this, you may be able to relieve all of that pain. So let's just take a look at how does this work and how can we do this maneuver that I just did. I make it look fairly easy, but for many years this was a real challenge for me to do this maneuver, to be able to tuck my hips forward. If you're a person who's growing up doing yoga and you're still relatively young, this may be absolutely the easiest thing in the world for you. You may not have any challenges, but for many of us that are older, or we've had a whole variety of injuries and we've got some miles on, there can be a lot of tension in the lower back. There can be a lot of tension in the entire pelvic area. and being able to tilt your pelvis forward and point your tailbone downward and level, smooth the lower back, that might be really, really, really difficult at first. So I have a couple of tricks. I have two methods to do this. Now the first method I think is the most desirable method, and this one is a little easier if you don't have as much tension, and in the long run this is where you're going to want to end up, and that's what I just did. So what I'm doing to level my hips is I'm using the lower abdominal muscles. So this is right at the area of the very center of your body, right at the area of your dantian, where we gather our chi. So at that point, 2 inches below the navel, a little bit more, that's where we're going to use this muscle. We're going to sort of engage them. And as I'm doing that, I'll just pull my hips forward like this. Now, and then just pluck up my back. But that may not be so easy. And I know when I was first beginning that I would try to do this, and then I would have to spend a long time standing, breathing, and relaxing my spine and my back. And after I did that for a while, I was able to release my back and work with my breath and relax my back. Now here's another way we can sort of a trick to get into it. And this is a really good way to go if your lower back is very, very tight and maybe hasn't been moving in a while. So what we're going to do is, instead of just tilting the hips forward, which we might not be able to physically do, what we're going to do is we're going to take the entire structure, and when I do this, and I'd encourage you, if you're following along, to put one hand on your tummy and the other hand on your lower back, and then simply tilt your pelvis back, tilt your hips back, until with your hand in back, you can feel the flat of your back down here, the sacrum, the tailbone, that they're actually pointing straight down. So you'll see at this point, my shoulders are now behind my hips. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep your hips there, and this is where I find it helpful to actually have one hand on the lower back, one hand on the belly, so I know that I can feel I'm not going to be moving my hips, and instead I'm going to pluck up my spine. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're actually lifting up your mid-back. You're lifting the mid-back off the lower back, and this is a way to open it up from the top rather than opening up from the bottom. And this can really help you to get going with this position. Now, when I'm practicing Qigong or Tai Chi or Kung Fu, at all times, there might be a few exceptions, but those would be the rare exceptions. Pretty much at all times, I'm going to keep my hips as level as I possibly can. Usually, I'm very good at this now. My hips are very, very level. And my lower back will be relatively open and lifting up, and this feels really good. It's also a very, very strong position structurally. What we're trying to do then is allow our body to adjust to having really beautiful posture, to allow our body to have a moment where it's adjusting to having the pelvis really being level, to allow our body to have a moment where our lower back is relaxing, our mid-back is plucking up, and the whole body is opening up. So if we can do that when we're standing and relaxing with our pelvic alignment, it's a really wonderful base for your Qigong to go much higher and much deeper. And that was my experience at actually unlocking this alignment with my pelvis. For me, it was a real struggle. I had scar tissue everywhere. It took me a long time, but it was worth it in the end because the pain went away. So it was also worth it because in the end, once you achieve this, it makes your martial arts much, much stronger. Biomechanically, having your hips level, it's a really good place to be. Having your hips in a really structurally strong position with your spine, it's incredibly beneficial. So I hope that you're able to take this lesson about aligning your hips and then take it and put it into your Tai Chi practice, into your Qigong practice. If you practice martial arts, this is something that you can start to integrate throughout your martial arts practice, and it will really improve all of your aspects of your practice.